Hi friends, this is Tina and welcome to my new video where I'll be setting up my new bullet journal theme for November. I'm super excited about this video since this theme definitely became one of my all-time favorites. It has a lovely cozy autumn feel and I can't wait to show it to you all. Before we start to create the cover page though, let's just quickly flip through my Autumn Cottage October theme. I love the look of this theme and you seem to really like it too, since after uploading my October plan with me video, my channel went from about 1,000 followers to over 10,000. Thank you so much for showing such a huge support to me and my channel. I really appreciate it. Some of my spreads still stayed a bit empty throughout this theme. I don't know why, but I didn't feel super motivated to use my bullet journal this month, even though I really liked my theme. But let's proceed to November. The inspiration for my newest theme came from this Pantone painting I made a couple of months ago. I really like the soft tones and cozy feel, and I also loved working on the small details. So my new theme is this autumnal aesthetic rainy flat lay theme that includes a lot of small coffee cups, books and candles. My cover page has a big window with some raindrops. For the scenery behind the window, I just took some light blue for the sky, and for the greenery, I took some light green, and I also just mixed a bit of gray to get more misty appearance. I also just went over the sky with a more gray shade afterwards. I just thought that would look better with the rainy weather. In every painting I made, I kept the landscape very simple, not adding any details besides just a bit of random darker and lighter tones that created some shadows and highlights. I didn't need to make the background detailed because I was going to go over it with the water droplets anyway. To create the rainy look on the windows, I just created some circular and also more droopy small dots with white gouache on top of the landscape, and then just took a black gouache to paint a shadow or an outline on the right side of the drop to make it look more realistic. This painting took about 5 hours to make, and most of the time I worked on the small details, especially on the window frames and on the small items sitting on the windowsill. I just painted the base colors for the different window frames first and later on added darker shadows to create some dimension. I struggled a bit with coming up with a theme for November. Even though it's still a fall month, it definitely doesn't feel like fall anymore here in Finland, and it rather feels like winter since we usually get rain or snow during November along with minus temperatures. Pretty much all of the beautiful orange leaves have fallen already, and we have also gotten our first snow in many cities here. I didn't want to create any kind of colorful fall landscape theme because it just doesn't fit the ongoing season for me. I was so happy when this theme idea came to my mind. It really fits perfectly for November and the gloomy and rainy weather we usually have in here. I have also never done a theme with indoor painting, so this was definitely a new thing for me and a big challenge too. I really enjoyed this whole painting process, and it's always fun to try out new things and exciting things with your bullet journal. I chose a very neutral color scheme for this, and I think that made this painting look a lot more balanced. If I would have chosen more bright color scheme, I think this would have easily made it look overwhelming. For the items on the windowsill, I chose colors like dark brown, dark green and dark red to make them pop a bit more from the beige or grey background. Coffee cup is a reoccurring item in these paintings this month. I think it fits perfectly with this cozy mood, and also literally every single time I was searching for pictures like this on Pinterest, they had coffee cups. I painted a blanket here in the front, and since I had already spent so much time on this whole painting, I just made it super simple with not much details. I pretty much just added some lighter and darker shades and blended them a bit to the base shade of the blanket. There's this old book in this picture too. I made the pages yellowish to make it look more like an old book. The last little painting details I added to this cover page was making these little branches and leaves in the vase with just 2 shades. I also just made the candle lights to both of the small candles. Now that the painting itself is ready, I took my white Archer and Olive acrylograph to write the header for this month. I also outlined the letters later with my 005 Pigma Micron fineliner to make it pop from the page a bit more. This time I included my calendar page in the same spread as well, just to ease my workload a bit. I desperately tried to make this grid pattern work on my spreads, but almost every time I just ended up covering it up, just like on this spread here too. On this page I just made a small calendar and a big section for notes and any other things I wanted to mention that maybe doesn't fit my calendar. I really loved experimenting this month and used a lot of these 3 Archer and Olive acrylographs I had, and I felt like this color scheme was perfect for this theme. The colors I used this month were Cocoa and Mothwing from the Cool Fall collection and Picklein from the Plant-Based Pride collection. I used those 3 shades to color in the daily dots in my calendar. Then I just covered the grid pattern header with a craft paper piece I took from my Archer and Olive Neapolitan notepad. I also just attached this small book page sticker here in the upper left corner. That's the first spread now done, and I'm super happy with it. Let's get on to my next spread, which is my tracker spread. I made a super simple painting in the bottom of this spread. It's a bit different from my other spreads because it's just an overhead shot of a coffee cup sitting on top of a book on a wooden table. I just recently got a comment pretty much saying that talking about my struggles takes away the relaxing feel when watching my videos. I got pretty self-conscious about that since I know I many times say that one spread isn't my favorite that month or tell you how one art piece didn't turn out exactly how I wanted. I never want to sound negative in my voiceovers, but I personally like to think that it's important to share those struggles too. I feel like many times doing art sounds too overwhelming and intimidating because many artists we look up to seem somewhat perfect and always confident in everything they're doing. People that never make any mistakes, and people who never struggle with imposter syndrome, or people who never compare themselves to others. I'm not saying that comparing yourself to others is a good thing to do, but I just wanted to show you that everyone struggles equally no matter where we are on our art journey. I can definitely admit that I have a lot to learn with being patient and just overall being more kind to myself and the things I create. I think I many times look at my own work a lot more critically than anyone else, but art is not always being happy with everything you do and constantly succeeding, whatever that means. Lastly, I just want to say about this topic, I know it's hard not to compare yourselves to others, but just remember, we all have our own skill sets and we all have started at a different time at a different point. I believe in you, and I actually believe pretty much all of you can do paintings like these, if not now, at least in the future. The skills I have now are only here because I practiced a lot with different techniques and different mediums and had some time and patience. I know I rambled a lot, sorry. So in this picture I just painted the wood patterns and tried not to think about what I was doing. I actually ended up covering up the whole table area after my first try because it just didn't really work how I wanted. I took a super relaxed take on them and I think it looks a lot better. I created this darker shadow on the book coming from the coffee cup and I had to fix many mistakes I made with the gouache. When I was happy with the result, I just took my detail brush again and started making the text for the book. I just made some random scribbles again. I also took my ruler to help me get more straight lines. For the coffee cup, I just made something super simple. I painted the inside of the cup with a darker brown color and then painted some foam on top with small bubbles. I painted the rim and handle of the cup with the super light gray shade. This definitely was one of the least time-consuming paintings I made for this theme, and it's good to have those sprinkled in too. I was so confused with what I wanted to do with my tracker layout. I tried out so many things with the grid pattern and craft paper too, but I just ended up with the simple habit tracker design with the brown cocoa, Archer and Olive acrylograph shade, and I just colored the frame for the small calendar itself and made the grid with a black fine liner. I feel like I really started experimenting more with this theme towards the end of my setup, and I'm sad I didn't do anything more exciting here because I was just scared I would ruin it or something. I sometimes struggle a bit with creating a nice balance in my spreads, and maybe this one would have needed more in the end. For my mood tracker, I made this simple box where I will draw a line representing my mood that day. I had some empty space in the spread, so I also decided to add a small spending tracker in the left side of this page. After a lot of trial and error, I made my header by writing trackers with a white gel pen on top of a piece of craft paper, outlined it with a fine liner and just cut it out, leaving a bit of the craft paper showing on the sides. This next spread is a new one for me. I've admired Monday Morning Designs or Viv's memory spreads in her bullet journals, so I wanted to make one in mine. I will link her Instagram account in the description so you can check out her account. There is one box for each day, and you can draw, write, or maybe even glue something fun in each box to represent your day, and then you can just look back at that spread and see all the happy or not so happy memories about that month. I actually 2 years ago used to always include this one doodle a day page in my bullet journal setup, and I remembered having so much fun with that one. I haven't done one in ages after I kinda lost motivation for it, but let's see if I actually end up using it here. My initial idea was just to draw the boxes with a black fine liner and that's it, but like many times I felt like it looked too empty, so I quickly just added some craft paper in. I also used the cocoa and moth wing acrylographs to create some frames to the boxes and also find a way to use the grid pattern finally. I think this spread will look so fun when it's filled in. That was just a super fast spread I decided to make, and now we will do some painting again in my content planner. For my content planner, I included some boxes for tracking and planning my posts in different social media platforms, and I also made a big calendar so it's easier to see the whole month in one glance to see what to post and when. This is a super handy spread for me, and I would be totally lost without it. Sometimes I don't fill my trackers, but the planning calendar is always useful for me. I painted a little painting here again, pretty much including the same things as my cover page. It has windows, raindrops, a coffee cup, books, and candles. I think it's fun how I painted coffee cups in pretty much all of my paintings, even though I'm actually super sensitive to caffeine and every time I drink coffee, it's caffeine free. I think it would be almost cool if I was able to drink coffee since everyone else does it in Finland, and I feel like not liking coffee is almost illegal here. For this whole theme, I used Royal Talents and Winsor & Newton Gouache in many shades. I only have those two brands for gouache, and I've been really happy with them so far, and I can also highly recommend them to anyone wanting to try out gouache. I already talked about this, but I also always love to use my Arteza detail brushes to create any smaller details in my paintings, and my other brushes are pretty much just some super old ones I found in my boyfriend's old room. Maybe I should buy some better quality ones, but these have worked for me well enough this far. I use my Pigma P and fine liner for any boxes and black lettering, and Archer and Olive acrylographs in shades Mothwing, Cocoa, and Picklein to have some fun color in my layouts. You already know this notebook, but I always use my Mellow Days rubber notebook as my bullet journal. It has textured 160 GSM watercolor paper, and it's great for any kind of painting. I have a 10% off discount code TINA10 for both Mellow Days and Archer and Olive, and my affiliate links for both of them are listed in the description. I also always get a small commission if you use my code. For this painting, I went with a lot simpler style in the window frames and overall had a pretty dark color scheme. It actually turned out to be a bit darker than I anticipated, but since I'm using gouache, I was able to cover it up with a lighter color. I again chose some green and red colors for the books and also wrote November on the cover of the red book. I'm getting so sad that autumn in here is ending so soon. Like I always say, Finnish autumn is really short and always ends before you're ready. At least I was able to enjoy the warm autumn days with yellow leaves and cozy mood. A couple of weeks ago we still went mushroom picking and actually found something like 20 liters of mushrooms, and I hope I can enjoy them the whole winter too. I actually found the love for mushroom foraging only this year and I don't understand why I haven't done it before. Where I live, it's kinda hard to find good places for that because many people have their own secret places for mushroom picking and real forests are further away. Luckily, when I go visit my parents, they are pretty easy to find now that I know a good place for it. I was meaning to leave the corners of this painting rounded, but I totally forgot about it when painting, so I just did that at the end by drawing on top of the painting with a white gel pen. This wasn't the last painting where I forgot to do that though. Now let's get on to the next spread. Actually, before creating this spread, I will make tabs for my weeklies. The spread where I flip to is the first spread that has the tabs, and you can see the edge of the page from all of the weekly spreads I will create this month. I just got this little strip of craft paper from my Archer and Olive Neapolitan notepad and glued it to the edge of the page. Then I started to cut the weekly tabs. To me, this is just an aesthetic detail and it doesn't really serve a bigger purpose. So this is going to be a little bit hard to explain, but each tab is 7 by 1 dot spaces and the first tab starts from the second highest dot. Each next tab starts from the spot the last one ends, if you know what I mean. In the middle of these cut pages there was one of those spreads that was glued in the middle, and it made my tabs unfortunately look different from each side. So when I flipped all of my pages to the right side, it looked completely fine, but when I flipped them to the left side, the other pages were peeking through and some of the tabs looked a lot shorter. I was able to glue a kind of fake tab on one of the more noticeably shorter ones, and now it looks good on both sides. But definitely make sure to flip your pages back and forth when making tabs to avoid any bigger mistakes. I colored the tabs with the same acrylograph colors and I think they looked so good all together. But now before painting some more, we will set up the last spread in this whole theme. I decided to do the spreads in this order because this was the other spread you could see behind the tabs. I just wanted to paint another painting, but when I started doing it, I just wasn't feeling it at all. I wanted to paint a picture where there would be more orange shades outside the window, but I actually just ended up googling a picture of an old book page, printed it at home and glued it to the page. I'm so happy about this decision because it not only saved me time, but it also looks super good and maybe balances the weekly spreads out a bit too when the edge you can see behind the tabs is not just another painting. This spread has my November review and December planning pages. I have sometimes included a review page in my notebook, but I haven't included any questions and I have rather just left it blank. And while that can be a nice thing too, I thought maybe I would be more motivated to use it if I had some questions I could answer at the end of the month. This is a super simple spread, but I really like the look of it and I'm happy I did something more interesting with my layouts this month too. I can already feel the inspiration to use my journal more. And now we can go back and finish this spread that has the playlist page and a big painting. This became one of my favorite paintings this month and I'm so happy that I included this in my setup. While I'm doing the same steps I've done many times before now, I'm just quickly going to talk about my recent username change. As some of you have probably already noticed, I changed my username from Tiinan päiväkirja to Tiina's diary. Tiinan päiväkirja is Finnish and just means Tiina's diary. Many of you said to me that you thought the username was just my first and last name, but yeah, that's not the case. I wanted to change my username for the longest time now and I'm happy I finally did it. Now it's a lot easier for you to write and pronounce and also maybe remember too. I change it in all of the platforms I have any accounts in, so it's easy to find, and I've also tried to change all of my previous links and pretty much everything that came to my mind. I just wanted to remind you of this change in case any of you felt confused. Like I said, I've done these same steps many times in my paintings this month, so I will let you watch me painting this page for a little while and listen to some relaxing music. I did something a bit interesting for this painting and painted this huge vase with some autumnal leaves in the back. I didn't make the leaves super detailed and rather just left it very simple with just a couple of colors and a bit of darker shades to create some shadows. I really love this color scheme in this painting, and I also just love the book page peeking from behind the tabs. On the left page, I included my playlist. I didn't notice I should have printed 7 album covers instead of 6, so I moved the one on top to the bottom to include a header to this spread as well. I wanted to make the page a bit more interesting by doing these little messy frames for the albums with my Pigma Pen fine liner. But finally, we can flip to the last page I'm going to set up in this video, which is my first weekly spread of the month. I feel like I've been slacking for hours and I'm happy I'm finally here. For this, I wanted to do something a little bit different since many of the paintings I did this month were somewhat similar. By the way, I know the lighting was changing a lot in this video, and it was because I actually had to film this on 3 separate days since it took so long. Many of you always ask how long it takes to create these setups, and I think this took something like 16 hours in total, without counting the hours of prepping, sketching, video editing, recording, and uploading. In this spread, I made 3 paintings on the right page, and all of my dailies are on the left side. For the first painting, I painted some coffee beans, to the second one I made a coffee cup, and the last one in the bottom has some cute, colorful fallen autumn leaves. The first painting definitely felt the hardest to make. I didn't clean up my palette before painting, so it had some white gouache I kept accidentally mixing with my colors, and on the paper, after they dried, they just looked somewhat dusty and gray. I struggled with this throughout this whole painting since my colors just weren't as vibrant as I wanted them to be. Luckily, this painting turned out good in the end, but I definitely feared it wouldn't since it was a hard one to paint, especially when I wasn't able to get the colors quite right. I just painted the coffee beans with different brown shades and made the little cracks they have with the lighter brown and added also a bit of black and white. I ended up painting the whole background underneath with a black gouache. The second painting just took about 25 minutes, and for that I painted an overhead image of a coffee cup on a brown wooden table. This was just what I needed after the slight struggle of the previous painting, and I thoroughly enjoyed painting this. I was just relaxed and took my brush and painted the wooden patterns and created the coffee cup pretty much exactly the way as in my tracker spread. This last one was such a cute little painting. I just made some different colored leaves laying on the ground after they fell from trees. I used some light beige, light yellow, orange, and red to create the base colors for the leaves and then made the ground dark brown. I painted the other side of the leaf with a darker shade so it would be more in the shadow. I outlined the leaves with a brown color and also created the veins with the same one, trying to make them darker on the side of the leaf that's more in the shadow. I lost some footage here in the end when I finished this painting, but I hope you somewhat understood what I was doing. I again rounded the edges of the paintings with my Jelly Roll pen and then colored the daily dots with the acrylograph markers. The last steps were to write the dates and make the daily boxes. Now we are getting to the end of this video. I'm so happy about this theme and I really hope you enjoyed watching me create it too. You can find more bullet journal content on my Instagram, Tina's Diary. We're just quickly going to flip through all the spreads I made in this video. If you like this one, don't forget to subscribe, leave a thumbs up, and maybe leave an emoji down below that somehow reminds you of this theme. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye bye!